I am pleased to have the chance to celebrate the evidence-based update to the WIC food package. WIC has improved the health of moms and their children for 50 years. It's a testimony to the nourishing power of healthy food. We need to make sure that the WIC benefit is aligned with the latest nutrition science so that it's maximally beneficial to recipients. Nutrition science has steadily evolved in the last 10 years, so I'm so glad that the USDA has adjusted the benefit accordingly. I'm especially excited that WIC participants now will officially be able to continue using their fruit and vegetable cash vouchers. We know that these groups are significantly underconsumed by the average American. We know the power of fruits and vegetables and know that the voucher is one of the most popular parts of the WIC benefit, as moms love having access to healthy produce. So thank you all for being here to support the WIC program as it evolves to be more helpful to more moms and their families. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Booker, for those wonderful opening remarks. WIC is certainly an inspirational program that has improved the lives of countless women, infants, and children. And welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining the National WIC Association's Food Package Livestream, celebrating 50 years of nourishing WIC families with updated food packages. My name is Darlena Birch, Senior Manager of Public Health Nutrition at NWA. As a member of NWA Center for Innovative Practices, otherwise known as CIPWIC, and one of 2 dietitians on my team, my work focuses on nutrition and breastfeeding within the program. A career spent entirely in WIC, I help support both the organization and larger WIC community's efforts to preserve the scientific integrity of the WIC food package, which has been a hallmark asset of WIC. Since its pilot in 1972, WIC has provided supplemental nutritious foods to program participants as a means to improve the health and nutritional well-being of the nation's women, infants, and children. Serving a quarter of pregnant women and almost half of all infants in the United States, this federally supported nutrition assistance program is integral for meeting national nutrition policy goals for a significant portion of the U.S. population. Through advancing health outcomes by addressing the specific nutrient needs of this population, WIC has demonstrated itself to be a pivotal food as medicine program. The WIC food packages, grounded in the most recently available science, have helped children score higher on the healthy eating index and helped WIC families employ healthier shopping habits, including buying more whole grains, bread, and brown rice. Paired with WIC's clinic-based nutrition services, the monthly WIC benefit brings healthy foods into reach for approximately 6.7 million participants each month. And after more than a decade of advocacy from NWA, WIC providers, and medical and scientific communities, the U.S. Department of Agriculture revised the WIC food packages in 2009 to align more closely with the dietary guidelines for Americans, introducing fruits, vegetables, and whole grains as WIC-approved foods. The first major halt to the WIC food package since the program was written into legislation in 1974, the 2009 changes strengthened the foundation of WIC's public health success by improving diet quality and variety, increasing access to and availability of healthy foods, and reducing childhood nutrition deficiencies. 2024 has been a momentous year for WIC. Not only has the program turned 50, but back in April, USDA's Food and Nutrition Service dropped its newest food package rule based on the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine's 2017 review of the WIC food package. The second major revision to the WIC food package since the program first began, these changes are pivotal to increasing flexibility and choice for participants. Joining me today are 3 panelists whose contributions to the WIC food package and program cannot be understated. I am joined by Dr. Linda Kilby, who served on the NASEM Food Package Committee back in 2005, Dr. Shannon Whaley, who served on the NASEM Food Package Committee in 2017, and Jamie Holliday, who is a Senior Policy Advisor for USDA's Food and Nutrition Service. Now I'm going to turn things over to each panelist to share some remarks before we get into our panel discussion. Dr. Kilby, let's start with you. Dr. Kilby, I'm going to ask you to pause for a second. I think you're muted. I'm so sorry. I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I was muted.
Okay, no worries.
Thanks again, Darlena, for this opportunity. My name is Linda Kilby, and I am the director of North Incorporated, the managers of the Philadelphia WIC program. I'm also the WIC program director. And back in 2005, I had the opportunity to work with the NWA task force that addressed the potential changes in the WIC food package. It had been 20 years since it had been addressed. And I'd just like to share with you the things that we talked about. We wanted a package that would be more consistent with the then 2005 Dietary Guidelines of America. We wanted to be more consistent with the American Academy of Pediatric Guidelines. We wanted to improve promotion and support long-term breastfeeding. This was a real big it was a real big emphasis because a lot of people were not breastfeeding. We wanted to provide a wider variety of foods. We wanted to start to accommodate cultural food preferences. This is something that was important because the things that were on the program from the beginning weren't necessarily foods that a lot of the immigrants were accustomed to seeing. We wanted to improve services to the medically fragile participants, and we wanted to respond to the numerous requests from WIC state and local agencies, participants, and Congress and other organizations who were asking for all of these things. And the people who worked on this task force were really great. They were committed to what we were doing. And we learned during this process that there were things we had to consider. For instance, in Alaska, they have a very short growing season. It's like 6 to 9 weeks. So there are a lot of things that they can't grow that they had to be brought in. We learned from the representative from Hawaii that although we thought it was great to add fish for the breastfeeding moms, they were concerned about the mercury content of fish. So we worked together and we came up with a plan. I am happy to say that when the Institute of Medicine conducted their review, there were very few changes because we had done a great job. As a local agency WIC director, I found that this was important to share with the staff because we were able to provide more education and training for the participants who were receiving the benefits, and they were happier. So that was the beginning. I can now turn it over to Shannon, who will update us on the most recent changes.
I guess that's me. Good morning, Linda. Good morning, friends. It's wonderful to see everyone. I'm Shannon Whaley. I'm the Director of Research and Evaluation at PHFE WIC. We're a really, really, really big local agency WIC program in Southern California. We're a program of Haluna Health. And Linda, I'll get up every day and talk with you. So good morning from California. Good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. Linda, it's so fun to hear you talk about 2004. I've been with the WIC program since 1998. So compared to you, I have a long way to go. We're in great hands with you. So back in 2004, a big part of the WIC food package was juice, because juice was consistent with what people used to think we should all eat. And the first committee that Linda just talked about, the first NASEM committee, then looked at the foods in the food package and said, okay, it really is time to align these foods with dietary guidelines. And those, as Linda just said, were the 2005 dietary guidelines for Americans. And like Cory Booker said at the beginning, fruits and vegetables are really important. And there were no fruits and vegetables in the food package prior to 2009. So the 2006 report that came out from NASEM was entitled Time for a Change. So the WIC food package, as Linda said, it was time for a change, and it added the fruits and vegetables, it added whole grains, it converted milk to more skim and lower fat options. It was a really exciting time, wasn't it, Linda? And all of you out there who were part of that, when we had fruits and vegetables for the first time. And that started then in 2009. The report came out in 2006. It takes a little while. We got the interim rule in 2007, and we engaged and got things going in 2009. So 2009 is when fruits and vegetables started at WIC, and when whole grain products started at WIC. It was a very exciting time. And boy, did it immediately show changes in children's diet and women's diet. We saw changes in obesity trends over the years that followed. We saw lovely changes in breastfeeding. Linda, thank you for talking about breastfeeding. It was a very exciting time. So as Cory Booker said, it's important that the WIC food packages stay aligned with science. So WIC is required, the food packages are required to be reviewed about every 10 years. So the next national academies, that's NASEM, thank you, Darlena, you spelled out the whole word at the beginning. So the next NASEM committee convened in 2014 and released their report in 2017. I will say those 3 years were among one of the favorite things that I've been able to do with WIC was serve with these other 15 incredibly smart and fun and interesting people from all across the country who were so committed to making sure the WIC food packages stay aligned with science. And Linda, that first committee the title of the report was Time for a Change because we needed new foods. So all these new foods came into the food package. The second committee then that I served on, we sort of said, well, all the furniture is in the room. Now we just need to rearrange it a little bit. We knew the right foods were in the packages, but it was really now time to talk about the amounts and the diversity. So the title of our report was Improving Balance and Choice. So we had sort of still too much of some foods and not enough of other foods. The cash value benefit for fruits and vegetables in 2009 was $6 a month for children and $8 a month for women. I know you've gone to the grocery store lately and you know how little that buys. So the 2017 committee looked very carefully at dietary guidelines for Americans. At that point, it was the 2015 dietary guidelines and put forth recommendations that were released in January of 2017 saying, we have mostly the right foods here. Let's really think about how we optimize nutrient intake of our very precious infants and children and moms, pregnant moms and postpartum moms in this country. So that report came out in 2017. Darlena, you said how exciting it was in April of this year, April 18th to be exact of 2024, that the final rule came out from USDA that sort of codifies the recommendations. And it largely very closely aligns with what was recommended in the NASEM report of 2017. So we're now seeing cash value benefit amounts for fruits and vegetables at the level of $26 for children, $47 for pregnant and postpartum women, and $52 for breastfeeding women. And those are monthly amounts. And you may say to yourself, 26 and 47 and 52, where did these numbers come from? Those numbers are also based on science. Those are based on the amount of money you need to buy half of the fruits and vegetables for a child under 5. So all of the fruits and vegetables for a month for a child under 5 would be $52 a month. So we give 26. Then for women and breastfeeding women who have, of course, higher caloric needs, the $47 and $52 a month are also associated with about half of what you need because WIC is the special supplemental nutrition program. So WIC is as a supplemental program. What we had really hoped as a committee in 2017 was to get WIC to at least a true full supplemental amount of 50% in fruits and vegetables rather than that paltry $6 and $8 that it started with. Although I don't want to say paltry, it was such an exciting change. Having fruits and vegetables has been such an exciting change. So just a couple more highlights of what this new rule that's coming. It has to be implemented by April of 2026, but the fruit and vegetable benefit is permanent as of June 17th of this month, so last week. So we are good. We've got these fruits and vegetables. I think WIC is a fruit and vegetable program now. It's wonderful. But we're also going to see really nice changes and expansions because remember, this is about improving balance and improving choice. More choices in the whole grain category, more choices on package sizing so that families aren't constrained to only have to find a certain package size that they can buy. We're going to see more choices with fish. Fish will be available in the child food package, which has never been seen before. We're going to see interesting options for dairy, and that breastfeeding support continues. So, Darlena, I'm going to stop there and pass it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shannon. Now we're going to turn things over to Jamie Holliday from FNS.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jamie Holliday. I am a senior advisor at the USDA's Food and Nutrition Service, and I'm excited to speak with you this afternoon. I'm going to follow up on what Linda and Shannon have both talked about, and thank you both so much for all of your work that has led to this point with implementation of the new WIC revisions to the food packages final rule. And I'm sorry if I'm repeating anything, but I'm just going to talk about some of the changes and the goals that we are hoping to see through this final food package at the national level, as well as how it aligns with some of our broader goals around the WIC program. So as Linda mentioned, USDA is required by law under WIC's authorizing statute to conduct a comprehensive scientific review of the WIC food packages at least every 10 years. And we have to update them as needed to reflect the latest nutrition science, public health concerns, cultural eating patterns, and we also recognize the supplemental nature of the food packages. So FNS published the proposed rule on the WIC food packages in November 2022, and we published the final rule just a few months ago on April 18th, 2024. And some folks from NWA who may have been at the conference in Chicago in April might remember that Secretary Vilsack attended about a week earlier to officially unveil the final rule, which we made public on our website. So we were really honored to be able to have NWA join us in that moment and to celebrate as we looked to the 50th anniversary of WIC. So the final rule revises regulations to align the WIC food packages with the dietary guidelines for Americans, the DGAs, and also, of course, to reflect the recommendations from NASEM. The final rule is also intended to promote food security, equity, and it considers the implementation of program administration for state agencies. Also, most importantly, it considered a lot of the public comments, well, all of the public comments that we got. Overall, USDA received over 17,000 public comments for this proposed rule, which we took into consideration, a lot of them from the WIC community. And so the changes together are intended to provide WIC participants with a greater variety of foods that align with the latest nutrition science, provide WIC state agencies with greater flexibility to prescribe food and tailor the food packages that accommodate participants' special dietary needs and cultural food preferences, and also to address key nutritional needs to support healthy growth and development. So I don't want to belabor the points on the updates, but just to reiterate, some of the key components of this final rule were increasing the amount of the cash value benefit for fruits and vegetables and making that permanent, expanding whole grain options to include foods like quinoa, blue cornmeal, wild rice, and naan to reflect dietary guidelines, and also to accommodate individual and cultural preferences, providing more non-dairy substitution options, such as plant-based yogurts and cheeses, flexibility on package sizes, and requiring lactose-free milk to be available, including more canned fish, requiring canned beans to be offered in addition to dried beans, and adding more flexibility in the amount of infant formula to partially breastfed infants to support moms' breastfeeding goals. And so these enhancements to the WIC food packages are part of USDA's broader efforts as well to modernize WIC and to meet more families where they are. Overall, we have 4 modernization goals that reach across all aspects of WIC. This includes reaching more eligible families and increasing awareness about WIC, allowing families to fully benefit from the program for as long as they're eligible. We know that a lot of families leave the program after infants are done receiving formula. We want to make sure that if they would like to receive the food benefits to help support them, that they're encouraged and they feel able to do so. And then the last thing is providing equitable access to benefits and services. So I'm really excited to talk about the work that we're doing to implement the food packages and to better support WIC families. So thank you. I will turn it back to Darlena.
Thank you so much, Jamie. So the next part of our panel discussion is I will ask a series of questions, some directed to everyone, some directed to specific panelists, and then feel free, even if it's directed to certain panelists, for others to join in. I just, frame the questions based on the specific expertise and backgrounds for each. So the first question I'm going to ask is for Dr. Kilby and Dr. Whaley. What are some of the most frequent complaints you hear from participants at the local agency level regarding the food package that the new updates will address? And what about, complaints from the WIC staff?
I'll start off, Shannon. One of the things that we address here in Philadelphia, Philadelphia has a large community. We serve over 44,000 participants, and it's a very diverse population. So we get complaints from the participants who have immigrated into America because they're not sure how to use certain foods, or we don't have the foods that they're looking for. So I am very happy that we have expanded the whole grain category so that they have foods that they are familiar with. Since the program has begun, each time we make changes, we go through this education process with the staff and with the participants. And it's always a great thing when you can have a positive outcome. And I think that's what we're doing. The one thing that they're asking for, though, right now is more alternative milk beverages. And because so many of our immigrant population and even our African American and Hispanic population don't tolerate milk as even whole milk, skim milk, low fat milk. They don't tolerate milk. So it's nice that we're thinking about expanding in that area. And everybody likes fruits and vegetables. And it's nice that they're going to be able to purchase them in the supermarket, because as we have here in Philadelphia, we have very few farmers market. Farmers market is our cousin that started back in '88. And in some parts of the country, it does very well. But in an urban setting, as we have here in Philadelphia, it's very difficult to get the farmers to come in from other counties to bring their fresh fruits and vegetables. So we're happy that they now have a larger food dollar amount to use to buy fresh fruits or frozen fruits and vegetables, but to include more fruits and vegetables in their diet.
I love hearing about Philadelphia, Linda. I hear it's always sunny there. So fun. So in LA, we're a really different ecosystem out here, I guess. We've got about 400,000 WIC participants in LA County. So it's a big spot. But and of course, our cultural breakdown is a little bit different. But I would say, certainly there are complaints, but I have to say, Darlena, the bulk of what we hear is delight, is not complaints. So I sort of don't want to lead by talking about what people don't like. I'd rather lead by saying, wow, are they thrilled with this fruit and vegetable benefit? Mm-hmm. And I will say one of the complaints that came in the last 3 years, for those who haven't been on this roller coaster with us, in 2021, we went from $9 a month to suddenly $35 a month and then down to $23 a month. These are just child amount. We've been bouncing around. And because of the way this legislation has been done, these funding periods were never certain. So every 3 to 6 to 9 months, it's like, is it going to continue, or are we going to lose the fruit and vegetable benefit? So I think the biggest complaint that I would say was that the roller coaster of how this happened was tough. And it was tough on our staff, and it was tough on our participants, and it was tough on our vendors, because as anyone in the vendor community knows, they would love to stock more fruits and vegetables, but if no one's going to buy it, that's too big of a risk for them to stock all of those. So I think, yay for NWA and the advocacy community for all that happened in these last 3 years to make the fruit and vegetable benefit permanent, because it took all of us to continue, and some really key players. Thanks to all for really reminding us that $26 a month for kids is the right amount, or more. $9 is not enough. So I want to spin around the question about challenges to say, well, the challenges are really quickly overcome by a really wonderful frontline staff too. Linda, I know your team. I know you. I know we know WICs across this country, and the staff just sort of make it happen. The other area I would like to have us talk about is welcoming the vendor community to these conversations. We want every WIC participant, when they leave our WIC site or they're done with their remote visit with us, to walk into a grocery store feeling welcome and feeling like they can find the foods and that the cashiers are there to help. So as much as we can support the vendor community to do that, I think is a win for all of us.
Great. Thank you so much for that response and for the reframing. So for all panelists, as WIC celebrates its 50th anniversary, from a historical perspective of changes already implemented, what do you consider the most significant food package change?
I will go back. This shows my age, Shannon. I will go back to when we added peanut butter. That was a big deal, because everybody wasn't eating the beans and the eggs, and the peanut butter gave the parent the option of making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, which the kids ate for lunch. I think that was a big one. The other one that I think that was very important was when we talked about limiting the amount of formula offered to a breastfeeding mom during that first month, because it helped the mom to build confidence in the fact that she had the ability to feed her child and to provide what was needed. And then we gave her more food. So that was a way of helping her to understand how important it was for her to be the source of the new infant's nutrition.
Jamie, do you want to go?
Of course. I'm sorry if this is a cop-out answer, but I think I think the amount of flexibility that is in this food package is like the most amazing change. I think the ability to substitute across food categories, whether it's lactose-free or plant-based milk or dairy, the whole grain options, the nut and seed butters for protein. I think like the flexibility that's allowed is hopefully making the program more appealing and more workable for families. I think also the importance of recognizing, like, even though these benefits are supplemental, recognizing the individual choices that people make and the agency that they should have when they go to the store, when they go to a farmer's market, to make choices that work for their cultural needs and their individual preferences and dietary restrictions. All of those are important. And I think it also just fits into this broader change that we're hoping FNS is embodying for USDA to meet more people where they are and to make the programs work for them. So I'm just really excited to see that we get flexibility, and hopefully it's also helping the vendors, as Shannon mentioned, to have choices with how they can stock and have these choices available on store shelves.
Ditto to everything. It's hard to add to that list. I do think the choice, the balance in the choice is critical, and just allowing participants to have more options. The fruit and vegetable benefit obviously rises to the top in my mind, but to have that money to buy any type. And what we found from research we did here is it absolutely expanded not only the amount that people bought, but the diversity of vegetables and fruits that people bought. And that's just sort of a sign. And I think by 2026, when we see the whole grain option expansions, we're going to see some really lovely diversity there with families who really don't eat a lot of bread or tortillas saying, oh gosh, these are grains that I really can embrace. So I really look forward. I know most states will take the full 2 years to implement, and I understand why getting all these little PLUs and SKUs, and I don't even know all the right language to line up, is a big, big project. So I want to actually intentionally thank all the state WIC directors right now who are embarking on this really exciting and important project and putting their groups together to think about this, because the state level decisions are exciting and time consuming. So it's exciting time.
Thank you so much for those thoughtful responses. So this next question is actually for Jamie. On the federal level, are there any changes to the WIC food package that you're particularly excited to see?
Well, I just mentioned that the flexibility, which is a huge one. But I think, I hate to be like repetitive, but I think also, as Shannon mentioned, that the fruit and vegetable is really exciting. I think that, you know, we're exciting to be able to make this a permanent change. It, you know, as was mentioned, I think a big part of making these updates, at the same time, we were also updating the school meal standards. And I think a big part of our thinking in rolling out the final rules was that we didn't want, you know, folks to have to keep going, you know, back and forth. We wanted to make changes that were implementable and things that people could stick to, and you know, that had some leadway, but also that could be embraced over time. And I think that the updates to the cash value benefit for fruits and vegetables, I think that is a major thing that's really going to help support families. And I think also the nature of WIC also as being a connector to other programs like SNAP and Medicaid. I think the fact that like these benefits are such an important support in addition to like other benefits that families might be getting. I think it's just, these are such a key support for families. And so like, I'm really excited about them.
Thank you so much, Jamie. This next question is for all panelists. What do you think are going to be, you know, the most significant changes to the current WIC food package as it relates to participants and for the broader public health? So I know it sounds similar to previous questions, but a little bit of a different angle in the sense of, you know, I guess biggest changes, not so much like ones you're excited to see, but maybe some of the biggest changes that will have far-reaching implications for public health, like increasing access to healthier foods, et cetera.
You know what, one of the really interesting things that came from the 2009 food package change was a number of really important studies that came out of that. And so I want to encourage people in the research community and people at WIC states to really think about, we're kind of right before the food package change, so we can study this again. And one of the series of studies from Tatiana Andreeva and her group actually looked not only at the impacts of the 2009 food package change on WIC people, but on communities, and really showed wonderful expansions in the vendor communities of availability of fruits and vegetables, not just for WIC participants, but for whole communities. So I think that's also something that we need to be paying attention to. And of course, the fruit and vegetable expansion is already here. We're not waiting till 2026 for that. So I think many of us, as we're walking around in our communities right now, are already seeing that this influx of dollars for fruits and vegetables to be spent at any vendor, any WIC authorized vendor, really has meant a transformation of what's available, not just for our WIC participants, which is a huge win in and of itself, but in these communities where often the WIC store, the WIC authorized vendor, is the store for the whole community. And so when you change policy for WIC, you're actually changing access for a whole community, not just WIC. So that's one thought that comes to mind.
I think about back when we reduced the amount of juice that was being given to infants, and now we were offering them fruits and vegetables. That whole learning curve was new for so many parents, because they would give them juice and not think about it. So they went from breastfeeding or formula into juice. And we had all these little chunky babies who needed some fruits and vegetables. And when we started talking to parents about it, they listened. And I remember during that time here in Philadelphia, we were able to get these little baby food grinders. They were manual, and you could fix the food just when you're feeding it to the baby. So, you know, we talked about it. We did all kinds of outreach and talked to parents and gave these away. Can't find them now, by the way. But then the parents who had foods that were culturally different from what the regular Philadelphia people were eating were able to prepare it right there. It was a little thing that just went around and around and around, and it helped. But for those who couldn't, having the option to purchase fruit, baby fruits and vegetables, I think was very good.
I will just add, in terms of just like the overall impacts that we think that the food packages will have, I think that WIC is uniquely positioned to help address health and disparities, both among women and also among racial disparities. We know that WIC participation rates are the highest among WIC eligible Hispanic and non-Hispanic Black individuals. And so increasing access to healthy food options is going to allow for our communities to realize the proven health and developmental benefits that WIC has. I think also WIC has played a really important role in the overall there's a current interagency effort to address health for mothers and reduce disparities in childbirth. And so WIC is a key partner in that with the White House. We have studies right now. We just awarded grant funding to help identify issues of distress in WIC clinics so that those instances can be identified and referred to help address the health of mothers and their infants in emergency settings when that's happening in a WIC clinic. So we know that the program itself is uniquely positioned to help reduce some of these disparities, and I think the food package and the support that it will provide to mothers and to infants across ethnic groups is really going to help make a difference.
Thank you so much. So our next question is actually for Dr. Kilby. What were some of the major changes in the 2005 food package update, and were there any lessons learned, and if so, why? So I know you mentioned cultural flexibility as one of those big changes in peanut butter, but what additional major changes do you feel were very significant and lessons learned?
Yogurt, offering yogurt. Now, you probably weren't born at this point, Darlena, but in 1984, when the Southeast Asian population came to America, no one knew what to do. No one knew what to do with them. And so they were offering soy formula to them. And they were trying to show these people how they could make yogurt from soy formula. Horror of horrors. I don't know if you knew about that, Shannon, but it was a hot mess. And so now that we can actually offer yogurt, because a lot of these populations from other parts of the world use yogurt. They don't necessarily use milk, but they use yogurt. And I think that it was an opportunity for us to educate the total population on alternative ways of doing things. And I think that's why WIC is so important, because we have the opportunity to provide education to a very important part of our population, and we can teach them better nutrition. We can, and that they can share it with other members of their family, and that they learn how to buy different food items, the fruits and vegetables, the whole grains, the yogurt, the milk, alternative beverages. All of these things I think are very helpful.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Kilby. The next question is for Dr. Whaley. Were there any lessons learned from this most recent food package review? And if so, can you share what they were?
Gosh, we don't have enough time to go into all of them, but I'll give some sort of high level. I think The most important lesson learned is how important this alignment of the WIC package with science is, and this process. It really makes sense. I think we have to be really careful in all of our environments. The amount of ultra-processed foods available in our food environments it's ubiquitous now. And I think it's critical what we learned from the 2006 report and then the 2017 report and the two committees that led to those reports is that this process really matters. We're right now at the 10-year mark of when the last committee started to meet, and people are saying, well, when is the next committee going to meet? And I don't know the right answer to that. I do think we probably need to implement this package first before we start thinking of changing it again. But as we've learned, it takes a long time to make change. So I think one of the most important takeaways I had from the experience of serving on that committee is that those committees really are critical. And I would hate to see us go 10 more years before we meet again, before that experience, before that process starts again. I think that's really a crucial outcome. And so far, we've really talked about the main food package lessons learned. And oh my gosh, Linda, I love hearing about 1984. My 2001 experience was the mom who came in and said, well, if you don't want me to drink so much juice, why are you giving me so much juice? So, things change. So it's a delight to have that walk down memory lane with you, but let's continue to stay focused on, we want the WIC food packages to stay aligned with dietary science. We know that's so important. We know families can access these healthy foods, then they eat them, these kids consume them, these moms consume them, and we have better health outcomes because of it.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Dr. Whaley. And I really appreciate that point you brought up about it takes a long time for the food package changes, right? And for our audience, I know a lot of dates are being thrown around. I'll say 2005 food package committee, but the reality is they did meet in 2003, 2004, or 2017 food package committee, but that's actually just when the final report was released. But these committees are meeting for years at a time, and then from the time that they're even dropping the report to the time that USDA is able to implement those recommended changes into actual policy does take a long time. And so we're always very grateful for every, iteration of the food package review, because we recognize how much work it takes from both the committee and USDA's FNS. So thank you so much. So this next question is actually for Jamie. How does this conversation fit into broader efforts across the federal government to support nutrition security? So this conversation, but also this food package review.
Absolutely. So in 2022, the Biden-Harris administration held the first conference on hunger, nutrition, and health in about 50 years. And so that has been in all of government effort, as well as with community organization partners, industry partners have pledged to work under the national strategy. And the president and Secretary Vilsack has lifted WIC up as a key way to address hunger and health as part of that strategy. So the WIC food packages, I think all of the components that we've talked about, the key goals that this is really seeking to address in terms of improving equity and access to healthy foods that are really going to continue to contribute to healthy growth and development. I think having more options for people and educating people about their choices is part of both, the underlying WIC program and a goal of us in rolling out this final rule. I think the options that are being made available to people, as well as the people, the additional individuals and families that we're hoping to reach through it, and that we hope will maintain their participation in the program, and that will choose to join WIC because of the benefits that they'll be getting through this food package. All of those are part of the broader effort with USDA, with partners like FDA, with HHS, to really address meeting the needs of people through food and nutrition. And I think WIC is probably, I'm biased, but it's the most important part of that interagency effort.
I don't think anyone here is going to disagree with you, Jamie. Okay, I want to ask one more question before we move into final thoughts. Let me go with a question related to, I guess, the participant shopping experience. How will this update to the WIC food package improve the participant shopping experience and enhance participant choice? And this is for everyone.
There's more variety, Darlena. One of the things that we have learned is that culturally, people who come from another country are more accustomed to using fresh fruits and vegetables. They are not as willing to use highly processed foods. And so the fact that the fruit and vegetable amount available has been significantly increased allows them to do that. And I think it makes them more comfortable with the foods that they're able to purchase when they go to the grocery store. Grocery store, if you go in there now, you almost have heart failure because everything is so expensive. So we're helping the people who are at greatest risk to be able to have healthy food choices.
So Darlena, I'm terrible at remembering questions. This is also about the vendor experience, right? The vendor piece.
Yeah.
I should write things down faster.
Shopping, Shannon, shopping.
Thank you, shopping experience. Linda, I just get so interested in listening to you that I completely forget the question.
We can also include vendor, shopping vendor.
Yeah, the shopping experience, I think, Linda, you would agree, and I think this is sort of universal, that there's only so much control we as WIC has over that shopping experience. And we have really important partners in our vendor community who really want participants to buy the WIC foods at their stores. So I think we have a wonderful opportunity. The kind of nice thing about this food package change is the fruit and vegetables are already here. They're already permanent. That already happened. So the next ones, as they come up sometime between now and April of 2026, probably closer to April of 2026 for most states, is we've got plenty of time to get the vendors educated. And I know that's a part of the plan at every state is to really have a pretty aggressive, sounds like the wrong word, but inclusive vendor training experience so that shopping experience is optimized. I will say most states also now have a WIC app of some kind. And wow, Linda, it's a transformational experience. Now you can zap a food with your phone and it'll tell you if it's WIC authorized. Like that absolutely transforms the shopping experience. If I can use my phone and scan the little barcode and it says WIC approved, it just reduces my stress as a WIC participant such that when I get to the checkout counter, it's not going to qualify. So that's technology. Some real exciting things.
I agree with everything that's been said. The options, both in the food package and the ways that both states and vendors, as well as USDA, is working to make WIC around the food packages to make it work better for folks is all part of improving the shopping experience. Specifically about the food packages, I think hopefully the flexibilities with the fresh fruits and vegetables that folks will have, they can choose between canned and fresh, dried, and frozen. And with the final rule, vendors will have to have 2 of those options available. So I think that will help people to make choices in store, as well as help vendors hopefully more easily be able to stock products. Also, the package sizes across food categories, participants will be able to buy, sizes that work for them that add up to the full benefit. So those types of choices will hopefully make shopping less of a headache. And just to support the shopping experience, USDA has been working. There were grants that went out previously to states to help improve signage in stores, to help folks locate foods, as well as cashier training. We're working to make it easier for participants to redeem the cash value benefit at farmers markets. And we're also working with our partner, the Gretchen Swanson Center for Nutrition, on online shopping pilots. And and gearing up to hopefully release our online shopping regulation in the spring of 2025. So all of these things are exciting, and they're all working together. So it's, just very customer focused, and wonderful things going on.
Thank you for that. And so I just want each panelist to spend 1 to 2 minutes, giving some final thoughts, closing remarks, anything that you really want to highlight to the audience before we end today's live stream. So I guess let's mix up the order, and we'll start with Jamie.
Okay. Well, first of all, I just want to thank both Linda and Shannon, and also NWA so much for all of the work that has led up to this point. There is just so much. I know, like, as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of WIC, we've just also been having these policy discussions where we realize it's a miracle for us to even be here, just given what it was a struggle to get the program even up and running 50 years ago. And the fact that there's been all of this development, especially in over the last 10, 20 years, so much advancement to really make the program more about the participants and what it means to them. And I think that's your work is a key part of what we are hoping to do moving forward at the department level. Are the efforts that we're making with the food package, and also, again, just more broadly with the WIC modernization goals, is really to make the program participant focused. And we hope that folks see this food package as really something that is for them. And so I encourage the WIC staff that are on as well to please raise any questions or concerns to your state agencies, also, because they are the key door to getting to us and to really helping with folks on the ground. So thank you.
And let's move to Dr. Whaley.
Thanks, all. This has been really fun. I love talking about the food package, and I love doing it with you all. So, how to do this in 2 minutes. WIC is the premier public health nutrition program in this country, as far as I'm concerned, and I think we have the evidence to back that up. The impacts of the WIC program are so varied and so many on a really critical time in women's and children's lives. So I think all of us are just thrilled that the food packages are continuing to align to keep the program healthy and to keep kids healthy. We spent all of today talking about the food package, which is important, but there's really 4 pillars to WIC: nutrition education, breastfeeding support, referrals to health and social services, and food. And I think the food is so successful because of those other pillars too. And our frontline staff spend hours in nutrition education and in breastfeeding support and getting those referrals. So the food is not delivered in isolation. It's delivered with a humanizing spirit of education and support that I don't think you can find anywhere else. And I've often said every woman in this country should be able to get WIC. And if you're too high income to get the food, you at least should get the support. And I just think the whole package, from the food to all the other support, is critical. And going totally off script, the peer counseling dollars for breastfeeding support are critical. You can't get a mom to breastfeed just by giving her food. You got to give her a lot of support. So we need to keep focusing on that. My last 2 things are those health outcomes mean that every dollar we invest, we're saving at least $2.50 down the road. We recently published that finding. And I think in this political environment, it's important for us all to be reminded that we're not just spending taxpayer money, we're investing taxpayer money so that we save taxpayer money in the future. That's what we're doing. We're investing in our kids. And my final shout out is to every WIC staff person on the front lines, my clerks across the country, my nutrition support staff, my nutritionists, nurses, whoever you are. You might not be mine, but I consider all of you mine. They're ours. The frontline staff, you are the reason this program works, and you are the reason that these health outcomes happen. So a really big shout out to the front lines, because they make this all happen. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Kilby, I believe you're muted.
I keep muting myself because that's what I was told by Tim. My final statement, I think, has to do with our responsibility as members of the WIC community. We have to educate our legislators. It's very important that people understand that the WIC program continues to evolve. Decisions that were made 30, 40 years ago were good then, but they may not be what we need now. We may need to go back and reevaluate them, look at them again. And it's not just about the food part. I'm with you, Shannon. We have to look at the big picture. And when you understand that the WIC program was not initially developed for women, infants, and children, it just worked because Hubert Humphrey came up with it. It was for the farmers because they were dumping milk into the ground because they weren't getting the money that they wanted. So WIC has evolved over these 50 years, but it's not over yet. And we have to continue to educate the people who make the decisions so that we're able to go forward.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I just want to do a quick, closing general remarks. Thank you so much to all of our panelists for your leadership with advancing the food package, Senator Booker for his uplifting remarks, and to the audience for joining today's discussion. We really appreciate everyone's advocacy and work to really push these changes to the WIC food package and your dedication and loyalty to the WIC program. I also want to plug the action QR code that you will see on our closing slide. It's tied to folks asking Congress to fully fund the program and maintain science-based standards for the WIC food package. So thanks again, everyone, and I hope you have a wonderful Wednesday.